Hey everybody, this is Lauren DeLisa Coleman, contributor at Forbes, and today at a really exciting venue. I am live in Las Vegas at the National Association of Broadcasters Conference, and I've got a slew of different interviews that I'm going to be bringing you. This is all thanks to the magic of a wonderful company called Cinemaker that is working in conjunction with me to be able to live stream these videos. They have some really amazing technology that enables so many different companies to be able to utilize graphics and more that give you that real newsroom feel. So we are in progress with that, and I'm about to now jump into my first interview with my two first subjects here, victims, whatever we want to call them, right? I'd love to be able to introduce you to both Jeff Cooper and Kumar Ramaswamy,
Hello.
who are CEO and president of a very interesting company called edgy. And I will turn it over to them first to be able to tell you just really top line what the company does, and then get a little bit more into all of the excitement here on the floor at NAB. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. First, tell me a little bit about what is edgy, and
Sure.
of course you have to give us a little bit about the name, right? What the history of the name is and what it means.
Well, the edgy, the root of the name comes from biology, and I'll let people look it up.
That's why God created
Otherwise,
Google.
we'll spend the whole show. We're a 10-year-old company, and we've been doing software-based solutions for the broadcast and cable industry mainly, and a few other verticals. Our products do encoding and transcoding solutions for those type of customers. And now we're getting into more of a turnkey product line where we provide the whole end-to-end solution for providing from the contribution all the way distribution, and now with a device side solution and the middleware and everything. And we'll talk a little bit about that.
That's really like a soup to nuts offering.
Right.
I think we've all seen, technology and anything broadcast. That's always been the backbone. But I mean, more now so than ever. But you both have a very unique kind of perspective on this major conference, because you were telling me that you've been attending this conference for 25 years, right?
Yeah.
So what have you seen as maybe the biggest change or the most surprising in that time period, given the fact that technology is so much more in the forefront now? What would you say?
The internet is the biggest change. Everything is now moving towards distributing content over the internet. Broadcast industry has also got to adapt to that. Not only will they send content over the air, but now everything starts to get distributed over the top. So in fact, at this conference, one of the most exciting things that we have seen happen is that spectrum has been reallocated for small broadcasters. The entire broadcast industry has reallocated spectrum, wherein small broadcasters have got a reallocation of their spectrum over the, so how they will distribute content over the air changes dramatically. And not only does that change, they're also going to have to start thinking about distributing content over the top to address not just the television set, but other platforms like the smartphone and the tablets and all these multi-platform devices.
So what do you think the biggest impact on this is for, of course, today's business leaders, of course, business readers of Forbes? How do you see that kind of impacting things?
So basically, previously there was a standard model of advertiser-supported television.
Right.
And now there is content being distributed to all these different platforms. The business models of distributing the content and monetizing the content has to follow the trends of the internet. The broadcast industry has to follow what the internet is doing and catch up to it in some sense.
Right.
But in many cases, the broadcast industry has some unique assets that they can bring to bear more efficiently than what the internet can do.
Right.
So there is that whole dynamics of mixing what broadcast industry does best and what the internet does best into a common format, and we think we bring some technologies to bear to be able to do that very well.
So would you say, because my next question was going to be, where do you think one of the major opportunities is today, given that that is the focus?
So the idea is to be able to have the broadcaster not only have a standard distribution format, but to increase their reach by going over the internet. And so we are introducing a new product called iGoCast, and it's a service actually. What it helps the small broadcaster do is to take their content, the bouquet that they offer over the air, to now distribute it over the top, and to get a whole new class of customers on the internet with that content, and the monetization of that can be completely left to the broadcaster. They can do new things with it. It can be advertiser supported, subscriber supported, or they can do freemium models, or they can have other unique ways of monetizing it. And we want to be able to provide a platform that will allow the broadcaster to be able to do that, a small broadcaster to be able to do that.
Interesting. So here at NAB, Jeff, how is it from an exhibitor kind of perspective, bringing such a product to all of the wealth of people that are here? How do you actually engage with them and then drive your own business while you're here, as well as help those who you're targeting to drive their business?
Yeah, well, we are definitely working to get the word out about this, and there, the effort at the show we're demonstrating it at our booth, for example, and bringing our first customers that are using it, and to help introduce it as well. In fact, we'll be giving a talk a little bit later today where our customers will also get up on stage and help us explain what this is all about and how it works. And
so you guys have got a stage?
We will be on a stage.
On a stage, okay. Because I love that when you're here, it's kind of like the broadcasters become almost the talent, themselves. I walked past one of the bigger booths on the way, and they had, people there, some of the editors, I think, from Game of Thrones, and everybody's just, enthralled, right? So it's really, really interesting. What would you say the biggest challenge is when you come to a show of this size and have to pull something like this off over days, right? Because we're here from the 9th until the 12th, right? That's the NAB overall, right? What is that besides a lot of Red Bull and coffee, right? What else?
Biggest challenge is getting yourself heard, right? We are a small company. Being heard and listened to is challenging, given that there is probably in excess of 100,000 people, but then there is in excess of a couple of thousand companies demonstrating what they have as new technology. Getting us heard is not easy, and that's what we think is the biggest challenge.
Interesting. What advice or suggestions might you have for smaller companies that are looking to be able to do this at various conferences around
multiple
the world?
multiple strategies, right? One is do more stuff on the web, and again, have your customers come and talk on your behalf. That we think is a big deal, because when a customer talks on your behalf, it kind of gets the word out a lot faster.
Interesting. Can you speak to any of the customers who you have now, or maybe are there certain regions where you're kind of blowing out?
Actually, one of our customers, in fact, Heartland Broadcasting, where we are first introducing the service, that customer was there at the LPTV forum last night, and they're going to be there today at the CMIP seminar to talk on our behalf. In fact, we are doing half the talking and they'll do half the talking. So
not a bad strategy.
So that we can get them to talk.
What does one consider, small when you say is it a small broadcaster? Are you talking about that in terms of revenue, in terms of reach? What is it exactly?
Well, we are not, we were part of a very large company many years ago, and we are sort of a startup. We are a 10-year-old startup.
Oh no, but not you. I meant in terms of your customers. When you say that you help smaller
they reach about 1 million subs in Kansas City, so they are not that small. They are a smallish. The small broadcaster. There are about 4,000 small broadcasters in the company. In the country. They are, there are the Class A broadcasters, and then these guys are the low power transmitters. They have low power transmitters. That's why we call them small. Not that they have a large reach, but they are considered small because they have a smaller broadcast footprint.
Understood, but still obviously revenue opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for joining me. Best of luck for the rest of the show,
Thank
because this is only day one. Anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, this is a wonderful. I think we like this format of producing content because this is the future. We think this is the future of where everything is at. Not the big studios, but this is where these things are going to go.
You've got it, right. Thank you both
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, we are back, and I'm very, very excited to have my next guest with me. So anybody and everybody who may own a Sharp electronic item out there is going to be very much into this interview. So I have with me Doug Albrechts, who is the president and CEO of Sharp Imaging and Information. And we're still live here, obviously, on the floor at the National Association of Broadcasters Conference. And Doug has been good enough to take some time out of his day to speak with us from, of course, his point of view, being able to see this from major brand
Yeah.
point of view. And thank you so much for being with us. Very excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Is this your first NAB, by the way? I'm sure it isn't, right?
Well, this is the first NAB where we've been full out, having a large presence and having some space on the floor.
Is it really? I'm surprised. Why did you pick this year for that?
Well, this is the first year where we have a story, and I think a really good story where we're targeting the broadcast industry around 8K and the 8K ecosystem. So we're showing an 8K camera and we're showing some 8K displays. So
for those who are watching who may not know, break down for me, please, 8K.
Well, I'm not a math major, but right now 4K is out on the market. So if you think of 8K, it's 16 times the resolution of 4K. So if you think of looking at images when you're looking at Niagara Falls, it's almost like you're sitting looking at Niagara Falls. It's real. It's almost 3D for the human eye. So it's a totally different experience, and so it has ramifications beyond just broadcast, but in many different fields. So we're really excited about the technology, but for us, it starts here at NAB because we're focusing primarily on broadcast.
How interesting. And I mean, I think a lot of companies obviously feel that many things, as you said, do start right here at NAB. What do you think is the impact of this conference overall for those in the entire ecosystem, of broadcast today? Why is this such an important conference, and what kind of business do you believe takes place here for those who maybe have never been before?
Well, it's a great question. So you think, we're, like I just said, we're showing an 8K camera and an 8K display, but the ecosystem around being able to transmit content and create content hasn't really existed, at least 8K content. And so the ecosystem of bringing that all together, when you distribute, when you edit, when you store it, when you want to send it over the internet, maybe an 8K photo, and have access to it, this whole environment within NAB, there's a lot of people that are going to play a part in that ecosystem. So for us, we're looking for partnerships and we're looking for technologies that we can't create on our own.
Okay.
So it's very impactful for us to be here.
So now, when will your products actually roll out? Because you're obviously demonstrating them here.
Yeah.
What's kind of the lead time on average from demonstrating in April to when they would actually be purchased?
Well, first off, we could be doing this in 8K today, right now.
So exciting.
But we're not. So Japan market, for instance, is starting to broadcast in 8K this late fall or early winter timeframe. The 2020 Olympics will be filmed in 8K.
Wow.
And so all the security will be done in 8K. So your question was, when will we be having 8K? We're going to have 8K displays and an 8K camera at the end of 2018. So it's really here. It's here now.
What, if you could speak to this at all,
Sure.
what do you think market potential is, revenue, et cetera, around 8K overall, or from Sharp's perspective? I mean, obviously this is something that's been talked about for quite a while. As you said, we're looking at 8K, we're looking at 5G. I mean, everything is taking off. From a business perspective, though, what is it about it that excites, I think, the corporation most when this is, a business opportunity, when you look at it from that point of view?
Well, because it's going to change the way we live, okay? So when you think of security in a large stadium, it's going to, we have the ability to focus in with artificial intelligence and 5G, we have the ability to scan an entire stadium and be able to do a facial recognition scan from very far away. So you don't need as many cameras. So it's going to change the way we live. Take healthcare, for instance. Surgeries will be done in 8K, and physicians will be able to collaborate with one another and be able to help one another. So our feeling is it's going to change the way we live, and Sharp is going to help drive that. And the ecosystem around it, 5G, artificial intelligence, are all going to play a vital role. The key thing is content, though. When 4K came out, content was slow, and this is why we're offering a camera, and we've brought it to market and going to have it this January. Because of that, we'll be able to create the content. So it's here and now.
Interesting. And so obviously Sharp has a booth here, and you're making it happen.
We do.
Best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Major success, but I don't have to, give too much success to Sharp. I think it's a brand everybody probably knows. But I think the 8K space, like you said, is just really fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing with us, and continued success during the rest of the festival. Keep the energy up, or rather the conference.
Yeah.
Keep the energy up. Thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much,
me here.
Doug.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Hey everybody, we are back again, still on the floor here at NAB at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and I have my next executive to be able to bring to you from an interview format. This is Lynn, who is the Vice President and General Manager of Intel's Visual Cloud Division, and everything today is about the cloud, so I'm very excited to be able to have her share really just more about, of course, what Intel's doing, cloud overall, intersection of cloud and broadcast. We're going to get into it for a few moments with Lynn. Lynn, thank you so much for taking a few moments out from, I'm sure, a very hectic schedule
here at
NAB. So, as I said, you're here, of course, looking at everything and anything intersecting with the cloud and broadcast. Right. What is that space like today? Because even listening to some of the other panels and whatever, cloud is major for broadcast. What is that like from Intel's perspective in terms of being able to support that type of format? Because I mean, it's storing like everything, right? So is this part of, I guess, your day-to-day kind of looking at this and forecast and maybe tech challenges around it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most exciting things about NAB is we're technology enablers, and we love to see both how the content creators can use our technology to create stories that weren't possible 20 years ago. But everything from your comment about cloud, there's so many opportunities for filmmakers to be able to spin up and come up with a concept and then be able to manufacture and produce in the cloud, so they don't necessarily have to have time delays in their production. And then on the distribution side, the network operators are upgrading their networks using commercial off-the-shelf architectures that are very similar to what you see in cloud architectures. And that allows them to create these really agile distribution capabilities close to the consumer as well as throughout a transformed network. So end to end, we're really excited to see both what the creators as well as the deliverers and then the consumers can do with things like Intel technology.
There is so much around it, and I remember being at Sundance Film Festival just a couple of months ago, and of course there was Intel House there. And so everything intersects with cloud and content. In terms of maybe businesses, viewers watching now, the Forbes consumer, Forbes reader rather, looking to be able to kind of make some kind of criteria around cloud providers, et cetera. What might you say would be some major things or just standard things to kind of look for? Because I know that this is always something that is of concern and making the right choice, obviously, because it's going to affect revenue, storage, and more. Right?
Absolutely. So one of the main things that I've been coaching any company that looks to go into the cloud is to make sure that they have their own abstraction layers.
Meaning?
Meaning they don't get trapped into one cloud format or one set of APIs that are proprietary. I used to joke with some of my other customers that were onboarding into the cloud, be really, really careful of abstraction levels so that you can make sure that your data is going into the cloud and you can get it out again. Otherwise, you have what I call the Hotel California experience.
Which is?
You can check it any time you like, but your data will never leave.
Okay.
And so that's generally not a good thing. So you want those cloud customers or those cloud providers that are willing to understand you have to have hybrid cloud capabilities. These service providers and the media companies, they want to be able to go from on-prem, where they can do production and add special effects, to be able to upload to the cloud off-prem, so they can do even more parallel processing, and then be able to bring it back down again. So you want to have a multi-cloud strategy.
Got it.
And not necessarily only pick one cloud service provider for your entire workflow, because Google is going to be better at search, or Amazon might be more optimized for a different workload. Your workflows may be better with one part in one type of cloud and another part in another type of cloud.
Interesting. So from Intel's perspective, why do you feel it's so important to be here at NAB this year in 2018?
So the transformation of this industry, it's been happening for a very long time.
Absolutely.
But from our standpoint, we're really, really excited about three things this year.
Okay.
The immersive experiences. People love to be able to involve themselves in the stories and the brands that they really enjoy, and being able to step into immersive cinema or immersive augmented reality. One of the trends that I found really fun and exciting 2 or 3 years ago was Pokemon Go. It's really simple augmented reality, but it just showed the appetite people have for experiencing a brand where they were, wherever they happen to be. I think that's one. The second one is things that are taking that content closer to the users, out to the edge. Instead of all the way back and hundreds of miles in a data center, being able to put those workloads right where the people are.
Okay.
So they don't have to experience latency, they don't have to experience delays, they don't have to have a single view when they're doing a multiplayer game, because they don't have the ability to get the responsiveness from the infrastructure they're playing on.
Okay, and third?
The third one is visual processing in general. Media transmission and media processing, it's always being updated. You've got 4K to 8K to 16K. And
As Doug from Sharp was just talking with us about.
Exactly. And so there's always this push to the next format, to the next generation. And for us, our Intel platforms tend to be general purpose enough that it gives the filmmakers, people using these new formats, significant flexibility in what they can do now, where they're not necessarily locked in to one hardware format that can process the kind of effects or the kind of stories that they would like to tell.
Understood. Well, I think that that's fascinating, and obviously we're just at the beginning
Right.
of many, many changes and disruption, and I'm certain that Intel will be part of all
Absolutely.
that, and continuing the conversation from Sundance. Lynn, thank you so
Thank you so much.
for being on set with us today
Thank you.
and sharing about that, because I know the Forbes reader is very much about the cloud. So
Excellent.
enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Hello everybody, I am back now with my next exec for you, and this is somebody who represents a company that if you've ever pulled or tried to pull a very cool image and couldn't, is probably from this company, right? I have with me Sylvan, Grande, who is the GM of Motion at Shutterstock. Sylvan, thanks so much for taking able to speak with us. I just am excited to be able to have you here because I never really thought, honestly, about the connection between Shutterstock and data. And of course, you're here at NAB to be able to kind of talk about that and other things. So first, let's get into it about how data actually drives and moves and what the intersection is of that for Shutterstock, right? Because you have some of the hottest images, which of course we can't pull at Forbes, and would love to often, but I didn't think about data. So how does that work with Shutterstock?
Sure, I think there are several examples of the way we leverage data. First, to do a better job at serving our customers. More importantly, to understand our images, our music, our footage
So
is
where
used.
are you kind of utilizing the data? Where are you pulling it from or how?
So a good example is we want to understand what are the trends that people are looking for, and we try to associate different type of data sets, and one
Yes.
of which is what people search for on our platform. What are the things where they don't necessarily find the query? So we try to identify, example, micro communities searching for new type of music, like electro blues is a kind of a genre of music that has been kind of recently upcoming and is used more by the advertising industry.
Okay.
So we just try to identify that. It's just one example, obviously.
So now how does that kind of intersect with all of the chaos here, at NAB? What is that kind of, what's the play for that with broadcast?
Yeah, I think the kind of everybody is here. It's like a very influential conference, and on our side, if you think of Shutterstock, is a two-sided marketplace. So on one side, we have we call them contributors, people that literally submit content to us, and then we have our customers, whether it's a small video editor, an agency, or a big company. And our job is to try to match those two sides of the marketplace. And so the
Okay.
more we can give data back to contributors on what's successful, what sell, what are the new trends, and then data also to our customer on you know what, this is actually being used a lot in terms of advertising. So publicly, for instance, once a year we release a creative trends report that is obviously the Shutterstock view on what's happening on our marketplace.
Right.
And with our size, we feel it's significant enough that it represents a perspective on the market. So that's one big way we leverage
could you
data.
maybe share what you think was the major kind of takeaway from that for the Forbes viewer? I mean, in terms of future business, whatever, forecasts, content and data. What was the major findings?
Yeah, I think especially as I think you're very interested in how to reach millennials and so on,
Absolutely.
trends like new minimalism, natural luxury, these kind of trends that are a bit kind of conflicting in themselves, like authenticity yet not authentic, so there are a few different trends that we've identified based on everything that's happening on our platform, but also outside. So we look at, I'll take the example of music again, what's popular in advertising in very tiny categories that might be predictors of what's going to be big in the future. Yeah, I think there's a lot of all the trends around cryptocurrency is a good example of things that we've seen kind of like evolved in different segments. So if you think of our content, it's used from I'm a small shop, I want to use it for my social media campaigns, or I'm a big advertiser, or I'm a production company, a movie like Black Panther also uses has used our footage. So we try to look at those different segments and understand what's driving, I think, customer interest in the end.
So in terms of data, are you going to be looking toward, or are you using yet maybe AI in any way to be able to kind of better kind of refine, or what's like your major method at Shutterstock?
So I think we use obviously some AI, especially around computer vision.
Okay.
If you look at, we have 190 million images and 10 million videos
really?
today. So it helps us automate the process of uploading that content, categorizing it, and so on. And also a good example is we provide automated keyword detection to our contributors to ease the process. And then another example, we just released a new music search engine. And if you think of, we have only 20,000 tracks because what matters is quality, but we have also over 100 instruments, over 150 genres. And so the way people look for stock music is a bit different from what I would say the music you consume. You might want to call, I don't know, piano, but together with an emotion or a mood. And so for us to understand that and optimize that, we're learning from the data every day. So yeah, there is already AI and machine learning being used at Shutterstock. And we're going to invest even more in that area.
That's great.
Sure.
I mean, of course, this is something that everybody is looking toward, and I've done other pieces for Forbes around AI and other business spend or more, but yes, the way that it'll be able to kind of further data understanding, capture, and more is going to be fascinating. So you're going to stay for NAB the whole
until Wednesday.
Whole show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday.
All right. Well, I hope that it goes well for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be able to share a bit more with us about data and Shutterstock, because I really don't think people know, so it's very exciting to hear.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sylvan. Appreciate it. Hello again, everybody. We are back, still on the floor at NAB, and I have my next exec who I am interviewing, who is Chris Pavlovski, who is CEO of Rumble, and I'm excited for him to be able to tell you a little bit about the company and why he is here at NAB. And you can't miss the shirt and the brand and all that, right? You're promoting like a hip hop artist, right? So tell us first a little bit about Rumble and what the company does.
Yeah, so Rumble's a rights management video platform, also a top 100 website in the United States that's helping creators connect to small, medium, large publishers. What makes us unique though is our technology that we have right at the point of upload. So typically on social platforms like YouTube and Facebook, you can upload your content. It goes up there without any verification or clearance.
Right.
Well, with us, we're doing a verification and a clearance with technology right at the point of upload for copyright and brand safety issues. And what this allows us to do is it allows our publishers to come and collaborate with their creators and monetize and use their content so that creators can make money and publishers can make money at the same time. But at the same time, it's also addressing all those brand safety concerns that we're seeing in the market with the apocalypse and all the issues with data and obviously ads being on the wrong type of content. So we kind of.
So how old is the company? It's not very
So
old at all.
2013 we launched at the end of the year, so we're approaching 5 years this year. So.
And so you're here at NAB. The mission is to be able to obviously talk more about the offerings in general, but in terms of true intersection with today broadcast environment and broadcast being a very wide net. What do you see like kind of the biggest play being, or maybe something that's new from say 2013 when you like kind of first tested the waters to now, right? Because 5 years is a lifetime in terms of technology.
Yeah, exactly. So when we started, we were more geared towards the small creator. So we were really trying to attract all the small
creators. Like an individual?
Yeah, the social video creators, the ones that you see on YouTube or on Facebook, etc. But what we've really kind of evolved into, at the same time, not forgetting about the small creators, the meat of what we're doing, but what's happening now is that we kind of want to attract the enterprise customers, the broadcasters, to also use our platform, because it's not agnostic to just the small creator. We can service the small, medium, and large all at the same time. So something like NAB is a great place for us to be to kind of get our brand right in front of the larger broadcasters and have them contributing to our platform like certain companies certainly do already.
And as you said, the win there would be then for them to ensure greater privacy around that content.
Yeah, getting the transparency around their content, so when other publishers want to use it, right now they're not really getting that. They're doing licensing on a one-off, or they're doing licensing without seeing exactly who's using it, where they're using it, how they're using it, and how much money they're making off it. So we're going to provide all that transparency for them so that they can protect their content and know exactly how much it's really worth.
Interesting. And you are exhibiting as you
Yes,
are
we
here.
are.
So
Correct.
what's that experience like for you, and what's kind of been the response to the offering? Because if you could only see North Hall, South Hall, Central, up, down, whatever, right? As one of the other execs who I was interviewing earlier today had said, the challenge is standing out. And of course our readers are attending conferences, exhibiting at conferences. What's kind of your secret, maybe if you have one, for standing out?
Yeah, so we actually, we were here for the first time last year. This is our second year here.
So now you're a veteran.
Yeah, we're a little bit more experienced. We have ourselves right on the main path now, so that's obviously helping. But what really kind of sticks out is that we're a top 50 US property, a top 100 or top 50 depending on where you look. So there's a lot of people that have heard of us and know who we are. So we have a lot of clients that are coming to visit us here, and some clients that have heard of us but don't really understand what we are. It's a good opportunity to kind of meet them and hopefully get them to use our platform more.
Do you have a specific ROI, for example, that you use at the company when you attend something, like this? I mean, I know that more and more companies, especially leaders of those companies, are looking and kind of evaluating more about the expense that comes into play when you're attending something like this. How do you know what's a win?
Yeah, so for us, if more people get to know us on the enterprise side, that's a win for
So it's
us.
more about visibility.
I'm not looking at a complete ROI right now. It's more
Okay.
about the visibility at this
Okay.
point for us.
So it depends, I think, obviously on like the stage of your company, right? What it is
Exactly.
that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay. So what else? Anything else that you would like to be able to
just
add
before
here?
we arrived, we announced that we're investing $20 million this year into our creators. So we'll be spending a lot of money on content.
Am I one of the first to get that? We have an exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
There you go. So that's been the big news in the last 7 days for us, is that we're putting in a lot of money to bring in more content onto our platform and grow our user base.
And how did you decide on that particular number?
We're already on
is it
pace
over time?
Yeah, it's for 2018, and we're on pace to be doing that this year. So that's exactly what we're looking to do for the remainder of the year.
So a lot going on for Rumble right now,
Absolutely,
right? It's
yeah.
only the first quarter, and
Yeah.
much going on. Well, continued success. I mean, where do you think, I guess, the biggest opportunity is for, anybody kind of in the broadcast space today? And I know that's a little bit of a broad question since it's so, so like wide, but what do you think if somebody's either in this space and looking to kind of remain relevant or become relevant, or looking to kind of even penetrate the industry? What do you think from your perspective?
Yeah, for us it's a little bit of a different angle, but what you're seeing right now with all the brand safety issues, all the data issues that are happening online, I think it's a real opportunity for us to take advantage of that situation where we're in a position where we actually clear and verify all content coming onto our platform. So the business opportunity for us is to kind of fix those problems that exist out there right now on the brand safety and the data issues around social video content and social content in general.
Which will probably just continue to rise.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, and we're hopefully going to pick that up.
Great. Well, Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much as well.
stopping by.
Likewise.
And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey everybody, we are back, and I have my next executive interview for you. His name is David Scheffler, who is the Global Senior VP of Marketing at Amimam, and he even has a device that he's going to show us, so I'm really deeply into this. David, welcome.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you here and with a Forbes reader. First of all, tell me a little bit about the company and actually too how you created the name.
The name is something historic that I even don't know because I was not in the company at the day that it was created.
Okay.
But it's an historic name, and basically the company is doing wireless connectivity. We actually today powering all the connectivity between the cameras and the crew on the set. So actually 5 years ago there was wires between monitors and the cameras, and the director was running after the camera looking on the monitor. Today each one of the crew is actually having a monitor like this, can see every camera on the set, and everything is untethered.
So no cables.
No cable. So we aspired with the industry to go to world without cables.
Now, what are some of the major challenges from a tech point of view in terms of pulling that off? This had to be years in the making, no?
Yes, it's years in the making. It's actually 14 years in the making.
Okay.
5 years ago it came to the market. The biggest challenge is basically to have a very high quality. Today 1080p or full HD, and tomorrow 4K and 8K,
Right.
but with very, very low latency. So that's what we're bringing. We bring very high quality with no latency, and in crowded area like this, you have a challenge of the frequencies. Putting all this together into one product, this is what make it pervasive in sets and in every feature film today that is in the market. Actually, every feature film is being produced with wireless connectivity based on Amimon solution.
Really? How fascinating. So you have obviously patents and more around this.
It's all patented technology.
Can you speak at all to investment that needs to be made into technology such as this to be able to, actually
It was large.
power?
It was very, very large investment, because we invented the basic technology from the mathematics, the algorithms,
Yes.
via the silicon, the chipset that is in there, via the modules, and products are made by other companies. We providing them the modules or the chips, and they making the entire product. This is not an Amimon product. This is one of our customer product, but
And
the
your
technology
is inside.
is inside. So
Understood.
every place that you have today, zero latency technology is Amimon technology inside.
So I can guess, but tell me, why is it a win for Amimon to be here at NAB, obviously with such technology?
Yes, it's important for us because actually when you walk the floors, you see a lot of our customers in this show, and actually what we're showing today, we're showing our next generation technology, which is we're bringing the 4K technology into these monitors. So our customers are looking for the next generation. They're looking what they can do with 4K and later on with 8K. And another thing that we are bringing untethering into the VR, AR technology. Today you have wires connected to all the goggles, and so this industry is going into the direction of VR and AR, and we're bringing that. Another area that we're going is we're going into the broadcast. If you go today to NFL, you have cameras that are doing some cameras that are wireless.
Absolutely.
This is the license band. The license band is another area that we're bringing a much lower cost products that will enable to have more cameras in an area of NFL and other areas. So
then would you say in terms of content development, at least that part of it, using cameras and more, this is really
yes,
the future of what is going to happen?
yes, the connectivity, the world without wires is the most important, with very high quality, picture quality, and very, very robust connectivity. This is the challenge, and we solve the problem, and we continue to go to a higher resolution and different markets.
How big would you say the market is for this?
It's a huge market.
Global?
It's hundreds of millions of dollars for wireless connectivity, even more. It's a huge market.
And for the transition, say for a company from wired or cable to wireless, challenging to be able to do, or?
It's not challenging. That's one of the things that we are bringing. You do not need to set up anything with Wi-Fi and other things. You need to do a lot of setup.
Yes,
With this,
configuration and more.
think about HDMI cable. You connect the cable in one side, you connect it in the other side. We are the cable, but not the cable. We are the wireless. You don't need to set up anything. So it's very, very simple to use.
Well, sounds like you've got a lot going on there with this.
Yes.
Is this your first time here at NAB?
No, we've been here for the last 10 years, so
You've
we
seen
are
a lot.
we've seen a lot, and we see the most interesting thing is that it's a speed light of progression from wire to wireless, and actually we do not see today any production that is being done with wires anymore. Actually, every production going from the rental houses into the production with the wireless connectivity.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this. It's fascinating to be able to see, and I'm glad that you could bring it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you. I appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're
Thank
welcome. Hey everybody, we are back, and I have my next interview for you. I have Keli Callaghan, who is the Senior Director of Customer Engagement at Avid, which has a massive presence here at NAB, and I am excited for her to be able to tell us a little bit more about the technology that is behind pretty much everything and anything you have ever seen and probably will see. The software behind all the editing and more that goes into that comes from the technology of Avid. So I've had the opportunity to interact with Keli on a variety of levels because I was fortunate enough to be a speaker at the Avid Connect conference, which happens just before as a kind of a precursor to NAB at the Wynn Hotel. And now we're inside of the Las Vegas Convention Center. I don't know how she keeps up. And I even saw some of the, I don't know if it was like executives around sound or whatever from Game of Thrones with everybody in the, like on this floor, like, you know, listening to every word. I don't think it could have been any more like exciting if some of the actors themselves have been there. So tell me about why, well, first of all, for our viewers who don't maybe know about Avid and the strength of it, tell me just a little bit about what Avid does, and then why being here is just so key for the company.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, Lauren. It's great to see you again, and you did a great job this weekend. That was fantastic. Tons of positive feedback. Lauren's a specialist in the millennial generation from 18 to 34, and you're able to share great insights that I think our attendees really appreciated. Avid Connect Avid has a lot going on here. We're, as you noted, we have a lot of creative professionals. We're making a lot of announcements on the post-production side for sports, for studios, and then also for cloud and how some of our enterprise and individual consumers can use can leverage the cloud and AI to really manage their content.
I had one of the execs from Intel just a few moments ago talking about cloud. So Avid is also providing cloud services.
Yeah, it's great. And we have a cloud theater over at our booth where we're doing a lot of demos with, we have a great partnership with Microsoft on their Azure platform. We're open to any of our stuff will work in any of the cloud providers, but we have a great relationship with Microsoft. We're down in their booth, and we've got the cloud theater with them up in our booth. So there's a lot of interesting things going on, and it's fun to look at how people are really getting on board with that and how they're leveraging it and how they're making their business models better.
I even, when I listened in on some of the panels during the Avid Connect, there's much discussion around, cloud because that's everything for content.
That's where we're going next, right?
Who are some of the customers, of Avid, just so that readers, listeners, viewers, etc., who aren't familiar with it can understand who's using it and why?
Yeah, one of the most exciting things about working with Avid is that we have such a vast and varied customer base. Not only do we serve, every creative professional that's mixing sound or music or creating music, as well as video. It's great. You noted our cloud theater. Our stage that had such a great presence. We not only had the sound guys and the mixing guys from Black Panther, but we also had the video team and the video editorial team from Black Panther, and it's two sides of that. So those creative professionals on that front. And then of course the enterprise customers. We've got all the major broadcasters and networks and studios that are here that are all using a variety of our editing.
It's like and massive. How old is Avid, by the way? Because I remember during my MTV days back in the day, Avid was king then, right? So
Avid recently turned 30, I believe. Avid's a company out of MIT, out of the Boston area, and has been coming to NAB for a very long time. It's the biggest trade show in our industry, and it's the biggest trade show for Avid every single year. And it's we've got a massive team here from our product team and our sales and our marketing and the whole gang's here and globally, and we meet with almost all of our customers globally. It's hundreds of them, hundreds of meetings that go on over the course of 4 days.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, I was asking another exec earlier, how do you actually determine ROI around something like this? Because it's obviously not inexpensive to exhibit at any conference, of this size. What's kind of a win for Avid at this point after 30 years attending such conferences as NAB?
I think some of the collaboration that happens here at NAB is so important. And we started out with Avid Connect, and we get that collaboration going with our customers there, and then that carries all the way through NAB. So it's not just being here and spending the money and promoting and marketing. It's really deep discussions that happen throughout the course of the week, and we're showcasing our latest technology. We've got all of our customers here, and it's, you know, there's metrics. You can look at it from social and your expenditure and what your pipeline is coming out of it, but it's progressing those conversations and progressing the dialogue. It's really important, I think, for the vendor community, so Avid and everybody else that's here, to really work closely with their customers, especially at the point that they're at and the transition and transformation that our industry is experiencing. That collaboration is really important, and all of that dialogue happens in person and it happens here this week.
Definitely makes sense. So in terms of, I guess, just talking about forecast, what's happening next, et cetera, when you look at the intersection of technology and broadcast, and that's so wide in and of itself, what would you say from Avid's point of view is maybe going to be something to look out for, or what might be surprising in the next, you know, year or two? What might be something that's coming out of this space that technology will either further or disrupt, or what? Because of course everybody's always looking for like the next thing to be on top of it. What's your perspective coming from Avid?
It's a great question, and I'm not the futurist at Avid, so you got to forgive me. Take this with a grain of salt. You know, for us, it's right now it's the cloud, and it's how people are being really creative and using it, and really making their business models work for this industry, with so much pressure and on expenses, and making sure that our customers are staying efficient. I think that's one of the key things, and leveraging AI is going to be a part of that.
Huge.
Yeah, and Avid's doing some great stuff with Microsoft and others on that front. And
have you started to work within AI just yet, or
a little bit? There's some Microsoft services that are available to do some recognition stuff that makes things really easy. But you know, when it comes down to it, our customers are, you know, I'll steal some words from, we were at the Technical Emmy Awards last night, which are phenomenal because it's a room full of some of the best and brightest, smartest engineering minds in this industry. And one of the Lifetime Achievement Award winners, Richard Friedel, made a comment about how, you know, they are our customers, Avid's customers, are responsible for entertaining and informing and inspiring. That's at the heart of what the media industry does, right? And so making sure that our customers and us, we're working together to make that possible. When it comes down to it, whatever the technology is, it's got to feed into that entertainment and inspirational and the informative, the news and all of that. So anything that's going to make that sing is where it's at. Yeah.
Great. Well, Keli, thanks so much for joining us, because I know you have a billion things going on here.
Thanks for having me.
But it's great to be able to hear about, you know, everything that Avid has going on here, because it really is kind of an anchor, right, to a lot of what's going on in broadcast across the board.
It's a platform, and it's being leveraged by so many people. We're seeing such great growth on it, so it's great to be here, and it's great to see it.
Well, continued success. Thanks so much for joining us, Keli.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Back at NAB with my next exec to share some information with you. And so much is going on around us. There seems to be more and more people, like every moment, on the floor. I'm really happy to have with me Devin Copley right now, who is the CEO of MEVE. And Devin, you're here and like boots on the ground. I mean, we've been emailing back and forth. I don't think he even sleeps during this conference. Thank you for joining us. First of all, tell me a little bit about MEVE and why you guys are here.
Sure thing. Well, this is our very first NAB, although it's not my first NAB. We're a new company that was formed out of the OZO program at Nokia, where we developed a virtual reality camera and a bunch of software. When Nokia canceled that program, me and some of the engineers from the team acquired the technology from Nokia, and we're continuing to develop it. So our focus is very much on live production, very much like what we're doing here, except specifically for virtual reality and 360 video.
So now tell me about this, because you know VR is one of my things. If it's VR, AI, robots, crypto, I'm like a maniac for these things. With VR and in terms of live, or just in general, what do you think the opportunities, the future is going to be for that? Because I know that, you know, we're looking at different like startups, for example, trying to do more around like say news and VR, whatever. We still haven't seen that that burst just yet, right? Of like everybody has a VR headset now. You know, I was fortunate enough to be here at the same place for CES just a couple of months ago, and a Chinese company, just fascinating, being able to really take VR to the next level by showing on a screen, right? So you could swipe from your traditional to VR. Now that's for me when VR becomes, you know, mass. What do you think from, you know, being in the trenches? How far away are we from that? What's preventing, this kind of, okay, this is the year for VR?
Yeah, well, it's funny, the hype for VR got well ahead of the reality, and I think a lot of the spending and a lot of the sort of VC money got well ahead of the reality as well. The fact is, though, the reality is a nice, healthy growth pattern. We see the analytic data, we see the time in headset, we see the number of hits, we see the amount of engagement we see with the 360 content specifically, and those are growing at very healthy rates. 25, 50, 60% annual, year over year. Now, it's not the hockey stick, right? It's not what everybody was talking about 18 months ago.
Right.
But the growth is strong, and we're really seeing, big broadcasters like Sky, Fox, BT, doubling down on their investments in this space. So it's going to take time, but all the indicators are pointing in the right direction.
So now tell me what you think the content will be for VR live as opposed to, recorded or what have you.
Yeah.
Because I, asked this because I had the opportunity to interview Black Eyed Peas during Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
As you know, they have Masters of the Sun, that film project on VR, which looks really hot. That's something that's obviously not live, right?
Yeah.
Are you anticipating, say, news or something that would be live, which I've, heard some different startups, talking about doing? What do you think is really the killer scenario around live VR?
Well, I mean, obviously sports is something people talk about a lot, but when we look at live productions, one of the questions we ask ourselves is, why does it have to be live?
Right.
Sports have to be live, broadcast news, breaking news has to be live, but beyond that, what makes live exciting is interaction. And I think that's something that we're going to be looking to be helping our customers bring into their productions over the course of this year and next year.
So it would really truly be a different type of news broadcast in that it wouldn't just be obviously someone like me talking to someone like you, but in VR, right?
Yeah.
That's our interest, right? But if you're talking about bringing the viewer potentially into the burning building, for example, or whatever, is that how you kind of maybe see it?
I mean, I think we're doing a lot of explorations on different ways to mix the virtual world with the real world in real time.
Okay.
And I don't think we know necessarily what the perfect solution is. It's very early days for the medium right now. But I do believe that the sort of one-to-many broadcast mode is only one of many ways to experience, live immersive content.
So now, what made your company decide to come to NAB this year to be able to talk about this, and what's the response been like from those who passed by the booth?
Sure. Well, first of all, NAB, it's the number one thing to be at if you're doing media technology. I've been coming to NAB since I was doing streaming media in the late 90s.
Really?
And every advance, you're going to find it here. And it's the best place for us to meet other companies, big and small, that are looking to push the envelope on what sorts of experiences technology can bring. So, we're even meeting people that we couldn't, had trouble meeting up with in the Bay Area. They're coming to our booth here. So it's just a great place to make those connections.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I had an executive from Avid who was just in the chair before you.
Yeah.
And she was saying as well that it's important to still be able to connect physically, have meetings, etc., because that's still, very key in terms of driving, business.
And the rest of your question, what was the response in our booth?
I was going to say, that's what I was thinking about.
What's interesting is, as I said, it's early days for VR still, and we have people coming to our booth that run the gamut. Some have literally never put a headset on in their life, and I can show them this beautiful 6K real experience. They see themselves. It's very otherworldly, right? And other people are coming and asking us, okay, so when are we going to get depth extraction? How are we going to do 6DoF live? How are we going to do all these things? Who are deeply, immersed in the technology, if you will, and then everything in between. And what's striking, I was here last year with Nokia, the year before with Nokia. We did a big live production in the Silver Lot. What's striking is, each year, that gap is getting bigger because there's still a lot of people who have never put on a headset, who don't know what that headset experience is like, but yet, the front edge of that wave keeps advancing. So it's a fascinating field to be in. It's a lot of fun.
I'm sure it is, and a lot of challenges, as well. Devin, thank you so much for joining us, because like I said, I love anything about VR. Just hearing more about it is really fascinating.
Thanks so much.
Continued success, especially with your Nokia background. I'm interested to see what happens. So yeah.
Thanks for having us, Lauren.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We are back, and I have saved maybe the best for last with all of what's going on around Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, this is going to be something that I think is going to definitely interest everybody. But still here on the floor at NAB, and I have Gareth Capon with me, who is CEO of a company called Grande, which I can't wait for you to be able to tell us a little bit more about what it does, but his perspective on really, and I don't think many have touched on this, how broadcasters will be affected by Cambridge Analytica and that aftermath, right? So thank you so much for joining us, Gareth. So tell me first of all a little bit about Grande, which is, just like a fun name, and
Sure.
I'm sure there's more to it than that, right? So go for it.
Grande is a cloud video platform. We provide a set of tools for broadcasters and rights holders to be able to distribute video across a range of social platforms, so to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Periscope and Instagram, but also to some of their owned and operated platforms as well. So it's a mix of live streaming, live production, clip creation, editing, but all built in the cloud, accessed via web browser.
And how old is the company, by the way?
The company's 4 years old.
Okay.
We're headquartered in London, but we've opened up office in New York. So we've got people in the east and west coast of the US now, and our first sort of commercial office in Singapore opened this year.
Great. So tell me, who are some of your customers?
Big broadcasters like Turner Sports and Univision and BuzzFeed in the US.
Okay.
In Europe, people like Sky Sports and ITV, but also sports federations, so La Liga, the Premier League, MotoGP, Wimbledon, football clubs like Real Madrid and FC Barcelona and Southampton. So we do a lot of sport, but also a number of broadcast clients globally as well.
So I'm really intrigued, by just, I guess, the implications around this. And so what is it that you have either found or what you feel that the forecast is around this? Because I think the position or the view has been, about the brand and of course the user, right? And not maybe more about that aside from obviously the policymaker around that, right? How are you seeing the whole Facebook kind of scenario impacting broadcasters and vice versa?
I think there's two things that have really happened here. The first and probably the more important change from a publisher perspective happened a couple of months ago when they made the change in newsfeed to talk about focusing Facebook's newsfeed on more meaningful human interactions. Right. So actually that had a much greater impact on publishers than possibly many of the more recent changes will have done. It was interesting for us, we actually saw an uplift in engagement for sort of tier one broadcasters and rights holders as a result of that move. Their organic reach went down, but because the content was interesting, it was high value, it was premium, people wanted to talk about it, it actually surfaced more appropriately in newsfeed. Okay. So we've seen a much better conversion rate for our customers now, particularly on things like Facebook Live, than prior to those algorithm changes. Okay. More recently, the data challenge is a slightly different one. I actually think that in many cases, most of the publishers sending video content to Facebook won't necessarily be using the data in the same way that Cambridge Analytica and some of these other sort of third-party marketing and advertising companies would have been. So actually the impact may not be as great on them as for some of the advertising-focused businesses. Where it may have an impact is some of the OTT platforms, the subscription services who are using Facebook as a customer acquisition tool. Obviously that data, that targeting information is quite important for the efficacy of their conversion rates for those types of campaigns. So I think that may be an area where there's the scope for that level of acquisition is possibly different going forward.
Interesting. So how do you see maybe some of those challenges being overcome?
Well, I think Facebook's an advertising business. They have to create a model whereby they can sell at a level of targeted advertising opportunities to brands and publishers. But what's going to change is that the control from a user perspective is going to be surfaced more appropriately. I think users are now more aware of what data is on Facebook, what's being used. Right. And obviously we have to recognize that many of these things have been closed down for a couple of years. These are problems which were in the open graph system a few years ago. Many of those sort of loopholes around acquisition and data access are now not available on Facebook. So I think it's good from a user perspective that people have a better understanding of what their data is and how they can use it. But
definitely understood, but in terms of like the OTT providers, as you were mentioning, who are using that to kind of fish, if you will, for subscribers, if that goes away, how does that affect that part of the business, which is rather large within the ecosystem, no?
I don't think that the ability to target customers on Facebook is going to go away. I think that they are rightly putting in much stricter controls about how that data gets accessed and used. I think if you're dealing directly with Facebook, you're still going to get the opportunity to target customers and use that. And I think that from a consumer perspective, if you're getting adverts which are relevant to you, there's nothing wrong with targeted advertising. What isn't good is for that data to go via a third party to another organization that you don't have a relationship with and you haven't necessarily authorized to get access to your data. And that really, for me, is the crux of what's happening right now.
Interesting. So any thoughts on like future? Because I hear, a lot, obviously being somebody who's a digicultural trend analyst looking at the convergence of sentiment within popular culture, emerging technology. Some people are like, it's just a blip, and others are like, this is going to change, the whole game. What do you think from your seat in the whole system?
As I say, I think that consumers are more aware now, and they will make some decisions about maybe what data they're going to share with certain platforms. There are lots of open platforms out there, Twitter and others, where people are sharing information publicly, and you'll still be able to use that from a marketing perspective. But I think that this is probably the natural cycle of what's happened on the internet. We went through this very rapid change of everything being open, everyone was giving everything away, privacy seemed to disappear. Maybe we're going to move back to a system which is possibly a lot more like it was 5-10 years ago, where people are a bit more aware of what data they are going to share with certain networks and platforms and how that's going to be used. But I actually think from a customer perspective, getting advertising which is relevant is better than getting advertising that isn't relevant. So there is definitely some value in making that data available to certain third parties if it's used in the right way.
Interesting, yes, and of course all this intersects with everybody and everything here, at NAB. So I'm really glad that you could stop by and give your perspective, because I know it's a very busy show for everybody. But yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Gareth. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura.
Have a great rest of the show.
Cheers. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that is it. This completes my live coverage from the Las Vegas Convention Center floor for NAB. I'm really so glad that I had the opportunity to bring to you exec kind of leadership, 30,000 view, from the sky point of view from Intel, Sharp, companies like this, of course, Avid, and some of the really kind of edgy innovators like Imim and more. It's just so intriguing to be able to just see and hear what's going on in this larger ecosystem of the kind of intersection of technology and broadcast. It's definitely a space to be able to watch, a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry, and I will be definitely looking at the trends and sentiment around it in my future columns. So continue to read me, and thank you so much for watching.